with Brett Glass and this week's City Council Agenda Preview.
Good morning, Laramie. This is your preview of the agenda for the City of Laramie City Council work session on Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. It's going to be at 6 p.m. in the City Council chambers at 406 Ivinson Avenue. You can also watch online, and you could even participate in the meeting using Zoom. This week's meeting was a work session, and prior to the work session, it's got two items on the agenda. And both of those items will also be featured today in a meeting of the Laramie Planning Commission.
What time's that meeting?
The Laramie Planning Commission is going to meet today, Monday, January 12th, at 4:30 p.m., also in the City Council chambers. And it is also accessible using Zoom. It's also accessible on YouTube as well. And both of the meetings are going to discuss the same things. There is the city bureaucracy has created some large planning documents for the future, and they're going to be discussing those too. The first one is called the Reconnect West Laramie Plan. And the purpose of the Reconnect West Laramie Plan is to provide corridors for running and biking. Not so much for automobile travel, but for people who are able-bodied to walk and run and bike between Laramie and West Laramie. And it's a big plan. It's 73 pages long. It is huge, and these two bodies are expected to read through all of this. They've only just got them, and consider whether to adopt them or change them or whatever. It is big and heavy, and it is being dropped on their plate. And if the
so they received these Friday or sometime last week?
Most of them will just receive it in their packets just prior to the meeting. So there's a lot there to read through, and they may only have a chance to skim it because I don't think that they've really had a lot of time to look them over. And
what's the presentation time allocated for this work session?
Well, I don't think for the Planning Commission, I don't know that there's that much of a time limit. Maybe they typically will not run into dinner hour too much. So I'm thinking maybe an hour and a half, hour and a half meeting there. And then City Council, of course, can go late if it wants to, but probably is not going to in terms of the work session. Although who knows, the presentations could stretch on into the night. There could be a lot of questions. There could be a lot of discussion. I actually hope that there is, because these plans are going to matter a lot to the future of Laramie, and again, they are huge. So let's talk a little bit about these two plans. Oh, by the way, the Planning Commission will also be considering one other item this afternoon and evening. Which is a variance for construction of a storage building in West Laramie. And this is at 460 West Garfield. Apparently the construction company there wants to build a storage building. And there is so much red tape involved in just building this storage building, and questions about whether other parts of the property need to be brought up to code before they can build it. That the variance request goes on for pages and pages, and the staff recommends denying it because, I think mainly just because there are so many requirements that would have to be waived, because our Uniform Development Code is so complicated and demands so many things. It doesn't look like the requests are unreasonable. Folks who are in that neighborhood of the west side should definitely look at this, but I don't see anything wrong with it, even though the staff is recommending denying the variance request. In any case, moving on to the items which are shared between the two meetings. The Reconnect Laramie Plan discusses connecting Laramie and West Laramie in various ways. And if you're watching on video, you can see I'm holding up the map. It talks about creating multiple corridors between Laramie and the west side and West Laramie. And
not only through I-80, but the railway.
That's right. It talks about about railroad bridges and actually a new overpass over the railroad exclusively for bike and foot traffic at toward the north end of town at Flint. Talks about improving the footbridge, the existing one at Garfield. Talks about having one at the very south end of town, going across to Venture Drive from Bill Nye and actually Spring Creek. Well, actually, kind of between Bill Nye and Spring Creek, right where they've just finished repairing the bridge. And there's a lot there. If you take a look at the at the beginning of the document, they talk about the most important improvements that they are interested in making. A new protected going from north to south. They're talking about at Curtis Street, having a better intersection that's more navigable at 3rd and 4th Street. At Flint Street, new accessibility to Laramie River and a crossing across Snowy Range Road at Flint so that you can go all the way through at Flint and actually go through the old railroad tunnel to go to the west side and get over to Madison. On Garfield Street, they're talking about bike lanes and shared use paths and getting across Snowy Range Road where Garfield comes out on Snowy Range Road. And the Spring Creek and Bill Nye area, they're talking about an entirely new crossing that goes across the unused land. Really, not much has been done with it since I-80 was built. Crossing over to Venture Drive in West Laramie. So anyway, the Reconnect West Laramie plan talks mainly about recreational trails, that sort of a thing. It really doesn't do much for one particular group of people, which is people with handicaps or disabilities. You really will need to be able-bodied to use almost everything that they're proposing there. And that's a concern. People who want to see accessibility for those who are not physically as able may want to comment on how that can be improved. And they also will be interested in the second item, which is a transportation plan. Okay, this one is only 34 pages long. It's not more than 70 pages long. And it basically discusses bus service all over town. Right now, the university runs the limited bus service that we have. We have the Laramie Link and we have the Express bus. And the plan essentially would add a bus route that goes to the west side and West Laramie. And again, if you're watching on video, you can see the orange line right here. This is what they're proposing to establish. And the problem is we don't really know how much ridership they're going to get. We don't know where the money is going to come from for a lot of these things, so there's a lot of questions here. It's kind of a pie-in-the-sky proposal for the future, but there are a lot of loose ends in it. They're talking about eventually creating an entire transportation bureaucracy that goes beyond what UW is doing. They talk about 3 phases transitioning from having UW run the service to having a Laramie Transit Authority, which is an independent agency. Well, all of this costs bucks, and it isn't really clear in all of these pie-in-the-sky plans how it's going to be paid for. And by the way, that's true for the Reconnect West Laramie project too, although there is an appendix which talks a little bit about how they might try to seek funding from various government agencies for that. But in the case of the transit plan, they list various funding sources, including employer contributions, public-private partnerships, City of Laramie sales tax, maybe adding another penny for that, mill levies for property taxes, and of course federal and state funding. And they list this all here. But folks may be interested in the details. Folks who aren't necessarily in favor of having another penny of sales tax because it's regressive, they have some concerns about their spending our money on this particular thing. Also, if you dig into the plans, you may have particular concerns about it serving or not serving your neighborhood or your constituency. So yes, these documents are huge, they're chewy, they're hard to get through. But but if you are interested in these two transportation plans, I strongly recommend that you at least look them over and comment not just to City Council, which may just turn out to be a rubber stamp on this, but to the Planning Commission, which is going to consider them first and is going to make the recommendations to Council as to whether to pass them.
Brett Glass with your City Council agenda previews. Recap the meetings and their times and how we can YouTube view or catch those live.
Okay, well, the agendas for both meetings are on the City of Laramie website. You go to cityoflaramie.org/agenda center, and you'll get a big list of meetings. If you scroll down to Planning Commission near the end of the list, you can click on the on the latest agenda, and you'll find a link to Zoom, so you can participate without leaving the comfort of your desk by clicking on that link, as long as you've got Zoom on your computer or on your cell phone. If you want to go in person, the meeting today is going to be in the City Council chambers at 406 Ivinson Avenue, and it's going to start as all of the planning commissions do at 4:30. I've always thought that this is a bad time to have planning commission meetings because it's in the middle of the workday. A lot of people can't make it, and it really does affect, it especially affects businesses. So I've always thought that it's a very bad time to have planning commission meetings, but that's when they're scheduled, at least for the moment. Now, tomorrow's meeting is going to be a typical City Council work session. You can find the agenda for that also on the Agenda Center page under City Council. And again, there's going to be a Zoom link. You can go on YouTube and just search for Laramie City Government and find the YouTube stream there. That's true for both meetings. And of course, you can show up at City Hall in person, which is, again, 406 Ivinson Avenue, corner of 4th and Ivinson. I strongly recommend that the public chime in on these projects because right now, again, they're huge documents which could just be accepted without comment. And then once the documents are accepted, unfortunately, it's hard to change anything. They have tremendous momentum. And the next thing you may see is, if you didn't like something in a document, you may see it happening without further discussion in public by the council.
Brett Glass with your City Council agenda previews, as well as the Planning Commission for meeting for today at 4:30, tomorrow 6:30 or 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock Tuesday, both at 406 Ivinson Avenue, your City Hall for Laramie, Wyoming. Thank you, Brett. This presentation brought to you in part by Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming from their location at 4th and Harney, and Snowy Range Flea Market and Farm Stand, 1951 Snowy Range Road, along with I-80 Towing and Automotive Services, 3830 Cherrywood Loop East. And we thank you for joining us. This is The Talk Shop.